Okay, so welcome everyone to our webinar on Kaleidoscope Play and Learn Caregiver Surveys. Thank you for coming today. And just to remind you, we are audio recording, not video recording, but audio recording. So if you want to listen to this again later on or have a coworker you want to listen to, you want them to listen to this, you can pass it along. We will email this out to everyone, the PowerPoint slides and the audio after this meeting. So the reason why we are having this webinar today is because it is the time of year for caregiver surveys for the Kaleidoscope Play and Learn program, KPL. And we just wanted to do a review on what caregiver surveys look like this year and give you a space to ask questions and give you some updates on changes to the process. It's a little bit different than last year. And if you have questions throughout this, please let us know. You can speak up or you can use the chat box as well. Okay, so some goals that we have today. When you leave, we would really hope, hopefully that you have a better understanding on the purpose of the caregiver surveys, as well as how to implement it this year in 2021, and some tips and ideas on not only how to administer them, but also knowledge of how to submit them on time by the deadline. So those are our goals for today. And this is just a brief agenda of what we'll talk about during this meeting. So we'll go over the caregiver surveys in general, the timeline of the surveys, how to implement them, and then how to submit them. Laptop is a little slow, sorry. Okay, so the main thing we wanted to start with is to ask all of you, hear from all of you, what are the caregiver surveys? We just wanted to start generating that discussion. Some of you will have done this many times in the past, every year, and some of you maybe are more new and haven't done this yet. And so this may be your first year doing it. So does anyone want to respond to this question in the chat box, or you can unmute yourself? Any responses? Does anyone on my team want to answer this question?
Kim,
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I don't think you heard Kay, but Kay actually just spoke on caregiver surveys.
Sorry, I didn't hear that. I don't know why.
I'm wondering it has something to do with the channels.
Okay. I'm in the English channel right now. Maybe Kay may be in a different channel. I'm not sure. Either way though, we should be hearing it, right? No matter what channel they're in. I apologize, Kay, I didn't hear what you said. Could you, Nicole, could you summarize?
She gave a lovely response.
Oh, she did. Okay.
But I'm a little bit, Kay, at the bottom of your screen, does it say English? The bottom right of your screen?
I may have muted original audio and that's why. So let me,
yeah,
that might be on my end. Okay, it's one moment.
It sounds like others heard Kay.
Okay, I unmuted original audio. Kay, can you say something one more time and see if I can hear you?
Hello.
I can hear you now. Sorry, that
Okay.
might have been my fault. I apologize about that. If you're interested, if you maybe could repeat what you said. So
the power of the survey is to find out what families have to say. And then the important part for me, because I do work in a school district, is to be able to share the power of Kaleidoscope Play and Learn with my administrators and with the school board, so that it's just a solid way, rather than I can tell them all the stories that I want. But when you do the survey, it's just part of it shows Mount Baker School District, but then also the rest of the responses. So it's really powerful for me.
Thank you. That's great insight. Anyone else?
Hello, Rachel Wickers here.
Hello.
Hello. So with our site being out of state, it's always a little confusing as to who we submit our surveys to. I think that we have submitted them to the main office, and then we kind of we utilize our own template as well, so that way we can map out our successes and or find out how we need to, you know, rearrange some things so that we're helping the families out a little bit more. But then it also helps us with our board and our school, that we are housed in a school. So it helps with their our monthly board reports, or you know.
Yeah, I think both of you have touched on an important topic in terms of reports and funders and being able to give the information that's obtained from the surveys to people who support and help keep the program running. That's definitely one of the main purposes of the caregiver survey. And in general, like both of you said, to assess and measure the impact of the program, the outcomes, essentially. And the caregiver survey is a tool for that. It's a simple survey that allows us to do that. And Rachel, let's talk more later too, if in terms of, I know you mentioned it's a little bit confusing submitting as an out-of-state affiliate. We can have more conversations on that a little bit later to support you as well. A couple of things about this survey I just wanted to mention before we move on to the next slide is that they are something that's offered once a year. It's like a typical thing we do every year. And it is required that facilitators offer the survey to KPL participants, but it is optional for them to fill it out and to fill it out completely. We want to encourage it, but we don't force participants to do it if they prefer not to do it. So required to offer, but not required for participants to fill out if they do not feel like it. And I also just want to ask a bonus question. Can anyone name the other two major quality assurance activities in the KPL program? The caregiver survey is one of them, and then there are two others that exist. And this is whether you're out of state or in state. In Washington state, all the states have to do this. I can give a hint. One of them is something that happens monthly, and then the other one is something that happens once a year as well.
It is the attendance?
Yes, the monthly attendance. Yep, that's the other main one. Thank you. And then what is the other one? Also happens once a year.
Kim, there's an answer in the chat.
Thank you. Sorry. What did it say? QSA. Yep. Thank you, Helen. Yeah. Exactly. It is a QSA. So we have the caregiver surveys happen once a year. The quality self-assessment happens once a year. And then we have monthly attendance. So those are the three main quality assurance activities. Thank you for participating in that. And something we also wanted to let you know is that the caregiver surveys are available in 5 different languages. So they're available in English, Somali, Spanish, Chinese, and Vietnamese. And they can also be completed verbally. So for example, that would mean a facilitator asking the questions on the survey to the participant and then helping them fill it out. So it may not be the participant filling out the survey form and on a physical copy or online, but the facilitator can offer it verbally as well. So that is also an option. Okay, and we kind of touched upon this the first question because you all had such good responses. So I won't spend too much time on this, but just to recap again, the purpose of the survey is to collect information. So some of it's demographic, like more details on who the participants are and their background. And some of the questions are also open-ended to collect some more information about how the program has helped them in their journey of raising and caring for the children that are in their care. And all this information is really important because we're able to report it to funders and other folks who help support the program. It's also just good for us to understand the scope of the program as well and its growth. These are the stats from 2020. Most that came from the caregiver surveys from last year. And last year was kind of strange because of the pandemic. And so the amount of people who were able to participate in the survey process was different. And we evolved the process a lot in 2020. And we'll talk about that more in a moment. But just to give you an idea, because of tools like this, like our caregiver surveys, we're able to provide and be very proud of information like this in terms of, you know, who's coming, how many people are coming, and some more information about their background, like whether or not they speak another language at home, their economic background, and things like that. So you can see in 2020, we had almost 10,000 families participating in Washington State, about 150 groups in 11 different languages. And the majority of participants were coming from backgrounds of lower economic status, and the majority were people of color as well. And this is just another example of some statistics we're really proud of that we're able to collect because of the caregiver surveys. The majority of participants in the program feel more supported in their community as a parent or caregiver and participate more in community activity services and so on to help their children learn and grow. So that's really exciting to see these numbers. So the image to the right is a copy of our caregiver survey. And I think many of you have already seen this before and have implemented it in your groups. This copy came from 2019. So this is what we were using before the pandemic. And this was when groups were in person and the surveys were implemented on hard paper copies in in-person groups. And every year the survey changes just slightly. And so in 2020, because of the pandemic, we had to change the process. And so in 2020, the surveys were not hard copies, not paper copies. They evolved into an online survey. And this online survey only collected demographic information. So it didn't collect the open-ended questions that we typically ask. So it was a modified version. So now we're in 2021. And what's the plan? So for 2021, we are doing a hybrid approach. So there will be the option of completing the surveys as hard paper copies if you and or your participants choose to do it that way. And if you choose instead to do it online through our SurveyMonkey that we have made, that's okay too. So it's either one you can choose based on what's best for you and your community's needs. And I also just want to note that in the past, like in 2020, the online survey only collected demographic information. This year in 2021, both the versions, the paper and the online version, will ask both demographic and open-ended questions as well. So it's really up to you to choose which one. You could do both if that fits your community. or you could choose one or the other. And hopefully during this process, if you need support in how to implement this beyond this webinar, please reach out to us, and we're very happy to help you and see how we can support you. I also want to emphasize that participants, when they fill out a survey, they do not need to fill out a hard paper copy and an online one. They just need to do one, only one. They don't need to do both. So please let them know that as well. Okay, I'm just going to pause for a moment before Nicole takes the next section to see if we have questions. Check the chat box really quick. Where do you find the survey? That's a great question. So we will be releasing the online survey and the updated paper survey on April 6th, which is next week on Tuesday. Yeah. And that's when it will all be released to everyone and all the states for you to use. And I don't know if I missed another question. Yes, we will be sharing the presentation slides with you following this webinar. Every Tuesday, Zainab sends out our weekly email. And so any slides or recordings from our meetings, resources that we want to share with you, it'll be in that Tuesday email. So we will send that out to you. Okay, so Nicole, I will let you take the next section.
Thanks, Kim. So this shows the caregiver survey timeline. Just as Kim said, you will all receive an email from us with the link and the forms on Thursday, April 6th. And if you are in Washington State, you will have until Tuesday, June 1st to submit them. We ask that you choose a 3-week window between the date you receive the surveys and the deadline to offer it to participants. If you are an out-of-state affiliate, you can choose your 3-week window to offer it at any time, as long as they are submitted by January 31st, 2021. So just to repeat, everyone will receive the survey link and forms on Thursday, April 6th.
I think that's a Tuesday. Is it April 6th a Tuesday? Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Tuesday, April 6th. You can go to the next one, Kim.
I have just a question.
Sure.
On that date, since January 31st, 2021 is already past to submit it. So would that be 2022?
Yes.
Yes.
Can you tell where all of our dates are? I apologize about that. I made this
Oh, no,
slide.
that's fine.
It
I
is
just wanted to make
2022.
sure. I'm like, oh, no, I missed it.
Yes, thank you for noticing.
Thank you, Rachel. 2022. So out-of-state affiliates, January 31st, 2022 is the deadline.
Yes.
I'll change that before we send out the slides.
Thank you. Okay, and some of you might be wondering, when you're offering the caregiver survey to participants, what should you say? How should you explain what it is? Kim she touched on this just a few slides ago, but I'm wondering if anyone would like to volunteer. And I know that many of you, if not all of you, have done caregiver surveys before. And so if anyone would like to volunteer and talk about how you offer it to caregivers and how you explain what it is.
So this is Ramona in Winston-Salem, North Carolina.
Hi, Ramona.
Hi, everyone. How are we doing? Happy Easter. What I normally say is that we're trying to collect information about how you feel about the program so we can improve it, right? We're looking for ways to improve it. We want it to be family friendly. And so I would like your honest opinion. So just give us your opinion about the program. And also I offer up an incentive. I do. I bribe people. So say, if you fill out the survey, I'll send you a gift card or something. And most times the parents will do it, right? So, but I mainly tell them that we just really want to know if we're doing the right thing, going down the right track in the services that we're providing, things that we're doing, is it beneficial to you? How can we improve it for other parents going forward once you age out of the program? So that's basically what we do. I do here in North Carolina.
Thank you, Arona. Anyone else?
Thanks, Ramona. I bribe people too. Yeah. And it really works, especially with the population that we work with. They really look forward to the incentive, like the upward reward. So it helps. And for a long time, I would say that we didn't have that capacity to provide incentive, but it's getting better, and we're glad about that. And we've seen engagement and increased participation, like just from being able to incentivize people. So yeah.
Thank you, Janet.
Hi, Rachel here.
Hey, Rachel.
When we do our survey, it's usually coming off of when we do our ASQs, we offer ASQ in our program. And so I try to plan it a good month and a half after, so I'm not hitting them with survey after So, because then after this, I usually will, with our children that are getting ready to go into school, we also do a Bracken. So usually one of my other coworkers, they will come in and kind of pull the children out and do that. But it's all kind of just, we have that continual conversation. How can you help your program? We're trying to make sure the children are on target, and this just helps us keep our program on target to help with the families. So that's kind of what we do.
Thank you, Rachel. These are all wonderful. And it looks like we also have some comments in the chat box. Let's see. It looks like someone said I use a community leadership lens. We want to always make the program better, and families have the power to speak up through the survey. It's wonderful. And then there was a question asking, what kinds of incentives do you all use? And then it looks like someone responded saying, I offer a $10 to $15 gift card, or I keep a lot of stuff that's new that I can give out as well. These are great. And I think also mentioning to caregivers that it's anonymous. They don't need to put their name on this information. We just want to collect some of it, but we don't need their name or any of those things. Any other last comments before we move on to the next slide?
I forgot to say something in the beginning, but I actually think it fits in here now. Just a reminder to let participants know that this survey is not a survey to assess or grade the performance of the facilitator. That's not the intent at all. It's more to look at the bigger picture and the overall outcomes of the program. So there is a lot of value in collecting feedback on a facilitator's work, and that could be done in different avenues, like a feedback box or inviting feedback through email or, in a group discussion, or lots of different ways. But this survey specifically is not to assess a specific facilitator or facilitators, just the program outcomes. So hopefully that takes some heat off facilitators that may be nervous.
Yeah, that's important. It's an important note. Thank you for saying that.
I just wanted to add about the virtual aspect or the electronic aspect of it. I think that would be better for, specifically my families. In the past, it's been because the questions were just so many, they would say, oh, I would take it and I would bring it back. And then it was
Yeah.
you know, really hard to get a hold of them again,
Yeah.
or even to get them to bring it. Every time they
Yeah.
forgot it or something
Mhm.
spelled on it, you give them another copy. So I think the electronic answer would be really good.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, that's good.
Nicole, I have one question about it's
Sure.
anonymous, but you will still be able to send back just for Mount Baker or whatever, right? You can still tell where it came from. Does that make sense?
Yes. So the new caregiver survey, I believe, has information on the top asking the facilitator's name,
The zip code
the
and county.
zip code and county. So we will be able to connect those copies to the facilitator and then know where it came from. Yes, correct. Okay. Thank you for bringing that up.
Thank you, Kay. I just want to add that in the past, it was much easier to report back because we got an email with all the surveys scanned. So we knew where the surveys are coming from, or which facilitator or which organization. So that's the reason why we added this question. It's the 13th question on the survey. Just for us to locate where is it coming from. It doesn't have any information on the caregiver, only the name of the facilitator. And we also asked the name of the organization that is facilitating this group. It will be, so every year we report back to all affiliate organizations in Washington State regarding the surveys that they filled out. This year, when out-of-state caregivers will fill out the survey, it will also come to us, and we will need to figure out. And we haven't had the time to set it up yet, but we will need to figure out how we're reporting back to out-of-state affiliates as well. We haven't done it before, but this year, since we are the owners of this caregiver, of this Survey Monkey account, we will get all the answers, and we will need to report back to out-of-state affiliates as well. I hope it's not too confusing, but we will do it this year.
Thanks, Avit. The next slide is some general implementation tips. So you can let participants know they can use their own device to complete the survey if they'd like. SurveyMonkey is very user-friendly on most devices, such as tablets and smartphones. If you are conducting a group in person and have access to an electronic device, such as a tablet, you can offer the tablet to participants to fill out the survey, but also keeping in mind considering COVID-19 safety measures. And just please remember for hard copy versions to remind participants to fill out the zip code, county, state, and the facilitator's name. You can move to the next one, Kim. Oh, I love this picture. Okay, tips on how to implement the online caregiver survey in your virtual group. You can allocate 15 minutes before, during, or at the end of your group for participants to fill it out. You can pop the link into the chat box and share your screen so that you can explain the survey. You can also choose to email it to participants, share the link in the platform that you're using to communicate with your group. You can tell your participants about the survey during any regular check-ins and send it to them. You can move to the next one, Kim. Okay, and I know that some of you might be thinking, if your group is in person, how to do this safely, how to pass it out to caregivers, what kinds of things you can do to make sure that everything is being safe. And so you can consider using having a table or a station where the surveys are printed out, and have a couple of cups, one cup for used pens and one for unused. And then also just having participants take turns going to the station or table, and just making sure that social distancing is also happening. And I'm sure if any of you have any other ideas, please feel free to let us know. I'm sure as you all are doing this, you will have some ideas or some ways of doing this that's very safe. And so if something's really working for you, we'd love to hear about it. You can move to the next one, Kim. And then how to submit the surveys. If your participants are completing the survey online, they just need to complete it and click submit, and they're done. If any of your participants are filling out the hard copy of the survey and you are in Washington State, you can scan and email the surveys to our email, which is kpl@childcare.org, or you can mail the surveys to the following address on the screen. If you are not in Washington State and have a hard copy of versions of the surveys, please communicate with your supervisor regarding the best person to submit it in your state. And I'm also thinking about scanning. So if you do have an electronic tablet, like an iPad, those typically already have scanners built into their photo area. And so if you're having difficulty finding a way to scan the documents, you can even use that by I think it's kind of done as taking a photo. And so that's another thing that can be done if you do have access to those devices to make it a little bit easier to scan. Before I move on to the next slide, does anyone have any questions?
So this is Ramona. So for us that are out of state,
Mhm.
we do not submit the surveys to Washington at all, KBL in Washington.
Sivi, do you want to answer that question?
So you are right, Ramona. You're not submitting the surveys. You do have in the report that you sent to us at the end of January. There is a part where you report on some of the things that came up in the surveys. It's not the same thing as sending us all the surveys that you collect. It's a different method. Yeah.
I also want to add that occasionally we'll have someone fax something to us. Please do not fax anything to us because I'm afraid that it'll get lost and most of us are no longer in the office.
Yeah.
If you fax anything to us, there's a very likely chance it may never get to our computer screens. So please refrain from doing that. And yeah, either if you're out of state or in state, whatever pathway you're on and submitting things, please follow the general recommendations, but please do not fax.
Okay. I'm gonna pass it on to Zainab.
Thanks, Nicole. So for this section, we'll talk about what happens after all of the surveys are submitted, which for Washington State, we usually create a report, which Kim showed earlier, like she mentioned the stats from the surveys that were created. And on the next slide, shows an example of what the report looks like. It's usually a summary of all of the surveys that were collected. And it's just a really nice way to show what the program outcomes are and the data that we collected from all of the surveys. Yeah, and on the next slide, we're gonna do some true and false, little quiz to see if you guys remember.
I meant to do the responses separate from them. It's okay.
No problem.
Maybe we can read them out loud and people can respond and then okay.
So you can skip this one.
Okay. So
The next one, yeah, I'll just read it and you
okay.
can.
Thank you.
For this question, it is required that all participants fill out the survey. So you can put that in the chat if that's true or false.
Someone in the chat box said, oh, false. There's lots
It
of
is
comments.
false.
False. Next one, it's okay if a participant fills out only some of the survey. True or false? Yeah, true, true, true. And
It's
it
true.
is true. Good job, everyone. Next one, a participant only needs to fill out a survey once. Example, they don't need to fill it out online in hard copy version. True or false? Got some trues coming in, and the answer is
True.
true. Next one, the caregiver survey is a tool to evaluate the facilitator. True or false? False, false. A lot of false coming in. The answer is false. Good job, everyone. Next one, the caregiver survey is a tool to assess program outcomes. True or false? True, true, true. And the answer is true. Next one, the survey can be offered verbally. True or false? True, true. Good job. You guys have good memories.
Yeah.
Yeah, the answer is true. The last one, the info collected from surveys is given to funders and helps keep the KPL program operating. True or false? True, true. And the answer for this one is true. Good job, everyone.